Hey guys, so this is the new LinksWell Tacoma radio, the T-Style Generation 6. And I'm doing this video because I noticed that there weren't really any reviews at all on YouTube about this radio. Just the videos that LinksWell's put out. There's like an installation video, and then there's like a really short video that just shows the radio. So I know there are probably some people who are looking at putting one of these in their Tacomas and might be, interested in my take on it, my review of the radio, and how things have been so far. So first of all, the startup time on this thing is incredible. It's better than the factory radio. It comes up almost right away when you start the truck. It, like 3-4 seconds at most, and you've got it up and running. Because it just puts itself to sleep when you turn the truck off, and then it wakes itself up. So it's really, really quick. I haven't noticed any significant drain on the battery in the truck. I have a way of monitoring my battery level in here, and I haven't noticed it draining it at any, particularly increased rate. So that's really good. So I just wanted to talk a bit about the interface. So it's a standard, Android interface, and they're using their own custom launcher, but by default you can switch it to a different launcher if you want to do things like setting wallpaper and stuff, because this one doesn't support that yet. So you can use something like Nova launcher, but I'm just going to go over the standard launcher. So it's pretty standard. You can look at all the apps that come with it, and I installed a couple of apps too. Like I installed YouTube, that didn't come with it. To install apps, you just have to log in with your Google account, and then you can go to the Play Store and you can install or update apps as you see fit. It's pretty standard. There were some weird things, like for instance, if I switch it to the reverse camera right now, you'll see, first of all, it takes a while for this to come up, which I find is kind of like they could improve on that a little bit. It's like almost 5 seconds, and on the stock radio it comes up effectively instantaneously, so it feels like they could maybe do something to acquire that video signal a little bit more quickly than what they're doing. I even went in and manually defined the type of radio signal, or the video signal rather. Under reverse settings there is, I think it's, signal type, and they have a bunch of different options, and the only one that actually works with this is NTSC. So it was on auto by default. I switched it to NTSC thinking, hey, maybe if I don't do auto and I tell it specifically what to use, it'll be quicker. But no, it takes about as much time as it would otherwise. So that's, that's kind of a little bit of a downside. Yeah. But anyways, once it's up, it works perfectly fine. It gives you a little view of your sensors, which is pretty neat. When I first opened this, I should mention, there were like these lines, but they were over the entire screen. It's something that this radio does, and there's a really, really not greatly named option in the settings. If you get one of these and you see that problem, you go into system, and then I think it's under setting. Oops, sorry. It's under, let me go back here. Close this. Oops. Close this. Close that. Okay, settings, system, setting guide, and then there's this option called dynamic guideline. I had to turn that off, and that got rid of those lines when I was reversing. Really badly named option, dynamic guideline. Like you wouldn't know what that's for otherwise. But that's to get rid of those reverse lines that get drawn over the entire reverse image. When you have the 360 camera system, you already have the lines showing, so you don't need that being drawn by the radio. So I just thought I'd mention that. Another important note, they mentioned this in the installation video, but when you first install this radio, to get your HVACs working, especially if you've got the vehicle like I do that has the dual climate, you have to go to under the system, the setting guide, and then you go to car model AC, and you have to make sure you select the right version. So for like the dual climate, the higher end package, you select Toyota Tacoma High. If you have the more basic package, you would select low. Once you select the proper setup, it'll reboot the radio, and then your climate controls will work on here. One thing I really like about this radio is the amount of like buttons that they have on it for controlling the climate. It's much nicer when you're driving. Trying to mess around with the touchscreen is not that great, so it's nice to have these buttons. So like, for instance, I can increase or decrease the fan speed, which is really nice. I can change the mode, and this will pull up a screen, and you can see how the modes are changing here. So this is like footwell only, this is footwell and top, this is top only, this is defrost and footwell, footwell only again, top only. So, and then another thing, this takes a while to auto close, but you can just swipe it away. So if I ever want to do this, I just, while I'm driving, you know, I get to the mode that I want and then just swipe it away. I would really love to see some config options to be able to define which of these buttons automatically opens the climate section, because you can open it yourself by just clicking down here, and then, you know, you don't have to do it with these buttons. And the thing is, this could get kind of annoying with some of these buttons. Like, for instance, it already displays the temperatures down here. So if I press this button to change the temperature, I don't want this climate screen coming up. I can see the temperature changing at the bottom as I press that. I mean, I understand some people might want this to come up, but I do not. I'm never using this in like dual climate where I have two different temperatures, unless I have a passenger, and then they can just adjust theirs by pressing this at the bottom. So I want this to operate either both of them if they're in sync, or the driver's side if they're not. And I would like for it not to have the option, at least to be able to go into the options. Like if I was to press climate, it would be nice to have an options button up here that way I could press, go in, and then configure what I want the behavior to be for every one of these buttons. So like if I don't want that climate screen to come up when I'm pressing these, I should be able to tell it not to. Same with like this button here. Like, it has an on-off toggle. It's very clear whether this is on or off. I do not need this climate screen to be up. It's a distraction. If you're driving and you have your GPS up, and I'm like, okay, I just want to toggle this, change this mode, right, that has a clear indicator whether it's on or off, and I press it and that comes up. Well, now I'm driving, I've got my GPS on, and it's another thing I have to worry about. I have to reach over and do this, an extra motion. It's not a huge deal, but it's inconvenient, and it's something I feel that on a radio this expensive, they could easily do a software update to make that function a lot better than it does. I would really not, you know, I'd like to be able to say, okay, I don't want that climate section popping up when I press this button, but maybe I want it popping up when I press that button, depending on what I want. Same thing with like AC. AC is either on or off. I mean, it's on, it's off. Like I can see that right here. Why do I need this climate screen popping up? I don't. That it's just things like that. Like I could see maybe some people want it to behave that way, but again, there should be a configuration option in that climate section to tell it whether or not that should pop up. And then another thing, as an example here, let's say I turn the temperature down and that climate screen pops up. Now let's just wait a little bit here. It's going to eventually close. Okay, so it does eventually close on its own, but I personally feel like that timeout is longer than what I would want. So another great thing that I think would be really nice if they, first of all, put the options that I was saying about the buttons, being able to control which buttons open this and which ones don't, but also adding an option to set that timeout. Like I would want that screen to time out a lot faster than it does. Like I would say like maybe 2 or 3 seconds would be perfect for me. Press it, I quickly see what's on the screen, and then I look away and it goes away and I'm back to my maps. I don't need it to be open for the, like, I don't know, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds that it is by default. I just find it's too long. Having that be configurable would be very nice. Something between like 1 and 15 seconds, and just allow the user to pick that. So it's just like little things like that that would really really improve the user experience. And then there's other little things, like if I'm running Spotify directly on the radio, or even if I'm just playing it in Android Auto, these controls don't do anything. They don't affect Spotify at all. And I feel like I've seen other third-party applets and integrations able to control Spotify. So I don't understand why they can't make this also do that. It's definitely something they should look into, because it would be so nice to be able to see the name of the Spotify song that's playing and to be able to like go forward and back. I've seen other like I said, third-party widgets and stuff that are able to do that. So I'm sure it's possible to hook into it and do that. And even if there's like a setting in the settings to like toggle it on or off if that's necessary, I don't know. But this right now is effectively useless, and it's just taking up a really big amount of space. I can already control my volume from here. I can also obviously control the songs too, but not being able to see like what's playing on Spotify here makes this whole screen in the middle here effectively useless. And I'm only switching to this when I need to use these 4 buttons in the corners. So I really think having this work with like Spotify, and maybe even some of the others like Tidal, making it so that we can configure it to work with one of those, would really up the usefulness of that section. I could see myself using that a lot more if it actually showed what's playing on Spotify, and if I could control it from there. So that's just another comment. The climate screen otherwise is quite good. You can control everything from here, AC on and off. You know, you can control your dual climate. If you want to unsync it, so you want like your driver's side to be a different temperature, you can do that. And then if you want to like put it back into sync, you just click and boom, it's back into sync. And you can set it to, you know, auto fan instead of manual, which I prefer to just control my fan, but that's possible. Heated seats, that's another point. Okay, so if you have the 360 model and if you have heated seats, let's say, you have to go into the settings guide, and then you have to go to, first of all, seat and steering wheel, and you have to enable your heated seats for starters, and then you have to click save and reboot right here, which will reboot the unit, and then you'll see your heated seats controls in the climate section. And then for the camera, I think it's under here. Yeah, so under camera switch, this is under system in settings. You go to camera switch, and then you want to enable, if you have the 360 camera system, you want to enable 360 camera and multicam interface. And then I forget if I did anything under here. Oh yeah. And then under multi-camera settings, you want to make sure all 4 cameras are enabled. And after I did that, I clicked on the save and reboot as well, I believe. And that got my 360 working. One great thing is that this works just like factory with this little button down here, the view button. If I press the view button, boom, it comes up. Again, it takes a few seconds. That way actually wasn't that bad. I find it's like random. It sometimes will take like 2 seconds, and sometimes it'll take like 5 or 6 seconds. So it's entirely random. I really hope that at some point they can maybe improve on that. One thing I'd really like to see is I would like the backgrounds here to be black instead of white, to match with the reverse. Because like if I put the truck in reverse right now, see, it's all black. Like that looks great. That's exactly what I want to see. And then when I put it in, you know, park, and I press the view button, it's, you know, it's white. It's a white black background. I feel like just for the sake of consistency, I think having that be all black would, like, just within that screen would be much nicer. So I feel like that's something that they could work on, just in terms of like presentation. I know that they've mentioned that they're working on a whole new launcher for this thing. So in theory, you know, within a few months or something, I don't know how long it's going to take. It could take a year, but we should have a new interface that's a little better, from what they're saying anyways in some of their videos. But I you know, they mentioned it kind of in passing in one video, and I don't know if that's accurate or not. Let's see. So you can adjust there's an equalizer setting that you can adjust. This will work with the JBL radio, or their JBL amp rather. I have the JBL amp in here, and it works perfectly fine. It plays audio. It always works. I haven't had an issue where I start it and I don't get audio. So I know that that's an issue on some of the cheaper like Phoenix Auto, radios that they have. But this one has been 100% solid with the JBL amp. I haven't had any problems with it whatsoever in that regard. I just leave this factory amp option turned off because it's not clear. It says in the documentation that I read that that's supposed to just lower the volume a little bit, but I don't think it makes a difference. Certainly the sounds fine in here with that disabled, so I haven't bothered playing with that. I turn radar sound on. That's turned off by default. I just think it's nice to have that when you're moving around, getting your actual radar sounds while you've got your reverse on or whatever. And then I personally put the SWC Prev next button negative. I enable that. What that does is I like having this button be for the next song, because it's like it's easy to feel for it. It's not indented, but it's like very, very easy to feel for that. So when I press that, I expect it to go to the next song. By default, this goes to the next song. So by enabling that option here, it changes that. Let's see. So there are some other options here. I mean, this is just let me see. So yeah, here's the equalizer. Actually, this is what I wanted, part of what I wanted to show. So under audio, there's equalizer, and then you can configure. I'm just using their popular mode that they have, but I'm probably going to tweak it by hand at some point a little bit. But you can fully customize the sound profile, using the equalizer, and it definitely does work. It makes a noticeable difference. So that's a great option to have. And when you want to go back on this radio, the back button's down here. This is the home button. This button is to see which apps are open. This button is to go to the menu with all the apps, but you can also just swipe up from the bottom to do that as well. You can adjust the sound gain as well for different audio sources. I've just left that at the default settings so far. I haven't done anything with that. Under user, you have the default navigation app. So I set that to Google Maps. You can change your boot logo. I like the default logo it comes with. It's like a nice shot of a Tacoma, driving. It's pretty nice. So I just left that. There's this app customize section. All this does is to select apps that show up in widgets on your home screen, like this one and that one. I don't really care about those. So, that's I'm probably going to end up removing them. I haven't spent enough time playing around with customizing the main screen. I'm actually probably going to switch to like Navalauncher, or what's it called? I forget the name. It Navi. Anyways, there are all sorts of different launchers that you can get on the Play Store to change the look of this screen. Like they control how your icons are defined. They control how your wallpaper is displayed, and stuff like that. So you can switch to another launcher to change the look of this, and there are definitely some nicer looking ones than the default that comes with this right now. I hope that they're going to do the update that they were talking about and release a nicer looking launcher that's maybe a little more purpose built for use in a vehicle, but we'll have to see. This one is fairly bare bones, but I mean, it works fine. You don't have to change it. But yeah, it's just, I will probably change it for the heck of it. So let's see. I'm trying to think of anything else that I came across here. So you can do both wired and wireless Android Auto with this, and they both work quite well. I do wired personally because Android Auto is quite flaky, I find, on wireless in the area that I'm in. Like if I drive by the hospital, there's a lot of interference there, and it will drop out if I'm on the wireless Android Auto, but it's solid if I'm on wired. So to do Android Auto, it's quite simple, and CarPlay as well. So you go to this Car Auto app, you open that, and it opens like this. And then in the bottom here is where you select whether you want to use CarPlay or Android Auto. So by default, it'll be CarPlay. So if you want to use Android Auto, you come down here, you just click on that. And then it was as simple for wired anyways as just plugging my phone in. So I'm going to do that now. So you can see I just plugged it in, and boom, it comes right. Don't have to mess around with anything. At first you'll have to accept something on your phone, but once it's in place, and then you can listen to music and switch songs. I'm using the steering wheel right now to switch. So another thing that is kind of annoying to me with this, it seems like they could have done better, is that when you look here, there's this button on the Tacoma steering wheel. This is supposed to be a push to speak button. This should be opening the voice assistant over here, like Google Voice or whatever, for you to be able to tell it to do things, right? But for some reason, they've just made this a mute button. Like, that's all it does, which is very strange. It's a very strange design choice. They're obviously able to intercept this button. They know that it's being pressed. I feel like there should be, I looked through the settings and I could not find any option to change the behavior of that button. But I feel like there should be an option to have that be the voice control. Like, it would be equivalent to pressing this down here. And then, yeah, like how, and then you talk to it and you tell it what you want it to do. So that's what this should do. When I'm driving, I like to be able to just quickly press this and talk to it and tell it that, maybe I want to change where I'm navigating to. Maybe I've decided, I'm not going to this store anymore, but I still have to go to this other store. So I'm going to quickly press that button, tell it to navigate to the other store and go, instead of having to, manually fiddle with the radio to get the next one, or try to press this tiny little icon down here, to get the voice thing going. This is way easier. So that to me is a major shortfall. I don't understand the design choice there. It's just little things like this that they should have done. Like, it's just there's just a lack of attention to detail and small things like that. It's the same thing with this down here not being compatible with Spotify, and then not being able to configure the behavior of these buttons with the climate control when it opens. It's all stuff that this radio could have just the most incredible user experience of any Android radio that you've ever used in a vehicle, right? It could be the best. The hardware is certainly there. Like, the hardware is solid, best quality of this type of hardware that I've ever seen. And this model only came out about a month ago, like a month and a half ago, I think. So I was lucky enough that I had a LinksWell dealer that's a little over a 20-minute drive away from me, and they were able to get one in within a week. They had originally told me that it might take a few months because of how in demand these things are and the backlog. But one of their suppliers who was nearby said that they had one. They were going to get one in stock and they would be able to ship it out within a week. So that was pretty sweet. So I was able to go and get this installed. Even with all the kind of annoyances that I've been talking about, it's still a fantastic radio. It's definitely a massive upgrade over the stock radio. I know a lot of people aren't crazy about touch controls and having larger screens in their vehicles like this. They'd rather have something smaller. I actually am kind of the same way, but there just aren't any that are out with this level of quality and that start up this quickly. That was the biggest thing for me. I wanted something that I'd press the button, I would turn the truck on, and the screen would be on. And that's what this does for me. This is the first time I've actually had that in the vehicle. Even the stock unit was way slower to start up than this thing. This thing is just lightning fast to wake itself up and be ready to go. So it's it's great. I get in the truck, I turn the truck on. Generally that app that was open to allow me to connect to CarPlay, to Android Auto, just comes up automatically because it was the last app that was open. So when it wakes up, it's already open. I just plug my phone in, boom, Android Auto comes up, and I drive away. There's no like wait time like there was previously, where I'd be waiting a good probably 10 to 15 seconds before I could even start driving. I don't have that issue with this anymore. And the other thing is, I mean, yeah, some people don't like the larger screen, but I have to say the extra screen real estate when you're using the map and GPS is really nice. Like, you can see way further ahead. So when you're on the freeway, like, you could see more easily when an exit is coming up. You don't have like a big part of this like blocking a part of the screen that you would normally have. Just stuff like that. So it is convenient, it is nice, and I am enjoying it. I really am. So I'm just going to disconnect Android Auto here again. I just pulled the cable out, and it just, came right back to that screen. And then I'm just going to open it one more time, just to show you how quick it is, because it's like, it really is just very quick to connect and come up. It doesn't take any longer, I would say, than it did with the stock unit. Oh, there we go. Yep. I think it's also a little slower because I'm taking video with my phone right now, and I'm sure it doesn't normally take that long. When I plug it in and I'm not actively using my phone for something like recording video, it's even quicker. So, but yeah, just wanted to show that. And there was one other thing I noticed. If you install Spotify on the radio directly, for some reason, I guess Google haven't taken this into account, because most devices that are using Android Auto are not like actual Android devices like this. This is like a full Android tablet, right? So if you install Spotify on it and you run Spotify and you log in, after you've done that and you've played music like the first time, when you connect Android Auto up, it will try to play Spotify from the radio, like directly from this tablet, like from the radio, always. So like when you're in Android Auto, you'll see the preview of what's playing in the bottom right. That won't be correct, because it'll keep, every time you try to change a song, it will look like it's changing it there, but then it will pause and then it will play on the Spotify on the tablet. It's just a weird thing that I haven't been able to figure out a fix for. I'm gonna probably mess around with it some more and see if I can figure out some way. Even if you manually go in and like tell it to close Spotify, it will still do that. It's like there's a Spotify service running in the background that even if you do a forced stop on the Spotify app in the Android settings, it still plays. Like it's weird. It's like this service that you can't kill, and then that interferes with Android Auto. So for the time being, I have uninstalled Spotify from the radio, and I'm just using it exclusively in Android Auto, because I do really like the Android Auto interface when I'm driving. It's very slick, and it's really well set up and laid out for what I want while I'm driving. So I'm not really concerned about using Spotify directly on the radio right now. If I ever do get to the point where I'm just using the radio instead of using Android Auto, then I would obviously reinstall it. But it's just something to be aware of. Even when you're in Android Auto, you can always press the home button down here to return to the home screen, and then you can do whatever else. So like you can swap between Android Auto and this. Like I could press home and then I could open YouTube, and if I have a data connection here, either via Wi-Fi or via a SIM card that you can put in this thing, then I can, open YouTube, because it won't get internet from your Android Auto. You have to have it has to have its own connection for this stuff to work. So that's something you need to deal with as well if you want to use this stuff. Either you'd have to like have your phone acting as a Wi-Fi hotspot while you're connected wired with Android Auto, because it uses the Wi-Fi when you're connected wirelessly with Android Auto, so it won't work with Wi-Fi if you're using wireless Android Auto, if that makes sense. So if you're using wireless Android Auto, then you would need to have a SIM card in here so it has its own connection to be able to use this stuff independently. But anyways, you can do all that. You can press home, switch to all this stuff, and then when you're ready to go back into Android Auto, you can press down here, and then Android Auto will be one of the apps that's running here, and you'll be able to just like click on it to switch back into it, and it'll come back up. So it's nice to be able to just like swap between that and use those other apps, however you like. It really gives you a lot of flexibility. Like if you're just sitting in a parking lot and you're like, hey, I want to watch a YouTube video on the screen and hear it through the speakers, that's not something you can do through Android Auto. But you can do it by simply just going back to the, the Android interface on the radio and just launching YouTube, right? This is a full Android install, so you can go in the Play Store. Anything that you could install on like your Android phone or your Android tablet at home, you can install on here, which is super convenient. It gives you a lot of possibilities. You can use all sorts of different like widgets on your home screen. There's just a ton of possibilities that you would not have with like a standard factory radio. So like I was saying, there are some downsides with this radio for sure. But overall, it is very good, and I really hope that they're going to fix some of the problems that I was talking about, because I really think some of these are, major user experience problems that could easily be fixed with a software patch. The hardware is solid, like I said. The only issue that I have personally seen with the hardware, like the design of the hardware, is that to put a SIM card in, there's a pigtail on the back of the radio, and they claim that they weren't able to make the pigtail any longer. I've seen that the Phoenix Auto radio has a SIM card pigtail that is long enough to stretch into the glove box so that you can easily open your glove box and switch out the SIM card. I mean, like, that would be super convenient, right? With this one, they've made, for whatever reason, they've made the SIM card pigtail. I think they were saying it was due to some kind of technical limitation with the hardware they were working with. They've made it so short that it's literally just sitting at the back of the radio there in the compartment. So this entire radio has to be unscrewed, unclipped, and pulled out just to put a SIM card in, which I find is just a major user experience issue. I'm almost wondering why they weren't able to just put a little like slot here, or underneath, just somewhere. Like I understand that there was a length issue, but I'm sure it could have been routed to like one of these locations around the radio to make it so that someone could just like pull it out and put it in. I would much rather have a little slit here with my SIM card in it, and be able to pull it in and out of that slit, than having to remove the entire device from the vehicle just to put a SIM card in. It's ridiculous. Like, what if I want to switch carriers? I have to pull this whole radio out every time I want to put a new SIM card in. It's kind of crazy. I think that's probably the worst design choice on this unit. I think that could have been much better thought out, but unfortunately it is what it is. And there really is no other unit of this level of quality overall, for the Tacoma for the Gen 3 Tacoma, I should say, on the market right now. So that's just something that we're unfortunately gonna have to put up with when we get this unit installed. I do plan to put a SIM card in this thing. I unfortunately didn't realize the pigtail was that short ahead of time, or I would have gotten the SIM card before I went to my installer. I was full on expecting that they were going to be able to just route that into the glove compartment, and then I was, just disappointed when I found out that they weren't going to be able to do that. So I'm just, like I said, I'm not looking forward to having to pull this whole radio out again to put a SIM card in, because I do plan to put one in here, just because it really, not only is it great just to have that extra flexibility, but also because it's like a backup, right? If my phone dies for some reason, I can still use GPS on the radio itself. I could still use Google Maps, and it'll have its own cell signal. It's just, I could even use it as a Wi-Fi hotspot because it's Android, right? So you could enable Wi-Fi hotspot mode, and you could connect other devices to it if you're not using its Wi-Fi connection actively. So like, it really just really opens up a lot of possibilities that you wouldn't have otherwise. So I'm gonna get it done. I'm debating whether I'm just gonna take it to my installer and have them pull it out and do it, because I don't want to be, blamed by LinksWell for, trying to do it yourself, even though I do. I installed this Wolf box myself. I ran all the wires for it. This is another, just while I'm looking at it here, this is another great upgrade you can do to your truck. I put one of the cameras on the license plate at the back, and then I have one of the cameras looking at the front. I have a tinted window, so that's why it looks weird, but it's a dash cam, so like I'm recording video at the front and the back, and if I were to get in an accident, I would have front and back video. It also will wake up if someone like hits the truck. It will wake up and start recording. So it's a great thing to have. It's very convenient. You can even turn it off at the bottom here and just use it like a regular rear view mirror. It's reflective enough for that, so it's quite nice. But yeah, back to the radio. This is a great radio, and overall I would recommend it, but I really hope that LinksWell improve on those things that I mentioned, because they're just, some of them are just really annoying. Like the climate stuff is especially annoying to me, and not being able to use this button for what it's intended for, which I feel like they could easily rig something up for that. Those are the two things that are really kind of getting on my nerves the most. The ability to use that for Spotify too at the bottom here would just make it so that that whole section isn't completely useless if you're not using very specific apps to play your music. And I really do feel like that's something that they could do. Beyond that, everything else is great. It works fine. I've found no issues with the actual climate controls. They do work. I've never had a problem where I've pressed a button and it hasn't done what it's supposed to. I've never had an issue where I can't go on the climate screen and get it to do what I want it to do. So yeah, this video is getting a bit long, so I actually wasn't planning to do a video quite this long. So I'm just gonna end it here, but I hope that this was useful. And if anybody has any questions, just go ahead and put them in the comments and I'll answer them as best I can. Obviously, I'm not an official LinksWell representative or anything like that, but I can try to help people out, you know, based on my own personal experience. All right, guys, have a great day. Bye.